Last season, the Brooklyn Nets finished with a 35-37 record and the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. This was definitely less wins than expected due to Kevin Durant missing the whole season and Kyrie Irving playing less than 25 games. And in the first round of the playoffs, they faced the Toronto Raptors and unsurprisingly got swept. But with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being healthy at the start of the up-and-coming season, they look to be contenders. So in today's video, I will be discussing how good I think the Brooklyn Nets can be this next season, as well as their off-season. Please drop a like because it will help my video do better in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe to my channel to help me reach 500 subscribers before the end of 2020, and just subscribe to see more weekly NBA content. Also comment on this video to start a conversation with me because I respond to all comments, and play that intro. The Brooklyn Nets this offseason have been pretty quiet and haven't made any huge deals, but one of the moves they did make was acquiring Landry Shamet and Bruce Brown in a 3-team trade that sent Luke Kennard to the Clippers and the 19th pick from Brooklyn to Detroit. And I think this is a solid move since Shamet provides elite shooting as he shot 40% from 3 last season, and having extra spacing for Kyrie and KD is never a bad thing. Brooklyn also re-signed Joe Harris to a 4-year, $75 million deal. And I believe this is a slight overpay because although Harris is a top 15 shooter in the league and has some capabilities to hit very difficult threes, I don't know if a player like that is worth that much money. And I don't know if they could have potentially spent that money on some guys who can play defense due to the fact that Brooklyn doesn't have one elite perimeter defender. Brooklyn could have also used that money to maybe sign someone like Jay Crowder or even JaMychal Green. But I'm not going to sit here and act like re-signing Joe Harris is a bad move, even if they slightly overpaid. It would have been worse if they let him leave without getting anyone else. So overall, I wouldn't give them a win or loss this offseason since they didn't lose anyone of significance or gain anyone of significance. Something surprising about this Nets team is that their biggest X factor is their best player in Kevin Durant, because this will be KD's first season coming off his terrible ACL injury. And over the course of NBA history, whenever players have returned off of an ACL injury, they have never been the same. From DeMarcus Cousins, Chauncey Billups, Rudy Gay, and much more. The only player to return as good as they were before was Dominique Wilkins, but that was over 25 years ago. So it seems very unlikely that KD will still be his old self, which was a top 2 player in the league and the best scorer in the NBA. But in the scenario that KD comes back 100%, I think that would make the Nets the best team in the East because KD would be better than Giannis and the Nets would have the best player in the conference. But the scenario that I do see happening with KD is him returning as 80% of himself. And you might be wondering, what is 80% of Kevin Durant? And that is a slightly better version of Paul George, because I don't think KD will be hitting the side of the backboard and choking in the playoffs. I see KD being as high as the 7th best player in the league and as low as the 12th best player in the league. I expect KD to still be an amazing shooter, but I don't see him being as quick and explosive as before. Next season will also be a big year for Kyrie Irving, as he has turned into one of the more disliked players in the league due to him not speaking to the media and many fans believing he's a very toxic player and a team cancer. I also believe Kyrie will be his usual self, which is a top 5 point guard and a scorer who can score on anyone and hit very difficult shots. But I think Kyrie needs to prove he's a good teammate this season by going to the media for his interviews, which shows him as a leader. And if the Nets do trash next season, a lot of the blame will go on Kyrie, whether that's fair or not. This year, Kyrie could show why he's the 2nd best player at the point guard position. Along with their two stars, this Nets team also has very good supporting players, such as Karis LeVert, who was the Nets' second best player last season. And he's a smooth guard who can handle the ball well and create his own shot at a pretty good level. Last season, he averaged nearly 19 points and shot 36% from 3. Karis is the player who can go for 50 on any given night, and he did that against Boston. And if Kyrie or KD are off, LeVert can replace their production. The Nets also have Spencer Dinwiddie, who I think if he comes off the bench can be one of the biggest contenders for the Sixth Man of the Year award, because he's a very good ball handling guard who can create his own shot at a solid level and is a very creative finisher at the rim. Last season he averaged 20 points, but it was inefficiently. But I think that's mainly due to him being the first option on the Nets last year, and that forced him to have to take and create his own shot more than a player of his skill set should take. And I think even though he shot a measly 30% from 3, I think that number is misleading and will go up with him being the third or fourth option next year. The Nets also have two centers who I think are good enough to start and be solid in Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan. They both will bring good rebounding and rim protection, and neither of them can space the floor or guard the perimeter. And I also think the Nets should start Allen, since he's more young and athletic and is slightly better at DeAndre at almost everything. But I think there's a chance that DeAndre starts over him just because Kyrie and KD want him to. But they are both good lob targets and will both be solid, despite who starts. If I'm being honest, I think the Nets' ceiling is honestly winning the championship, because I don't know how a team with Kyrie and KD doesn't have at least a chance to win the ring. Those are two top 5 pure skilled scorers in the game, and along with them you have some solid shooting and other creators. If Durant returns back to his old self, I would honestly predict the Nets to make it all the way to the finals, even over the Bucks. Whether they win or not, I don't know, but they would have a realistic shot. I think the Nets' floor as a team is if KD doesn't return as even 80% of his old self and is just an all-star level player but not even a top 15 player, or if Kyrie has nagging injuries throughout the year and misses like 1/3 of the year so their team chemistry gets messed up. Also, if Brooklyn's chemistry proves to be toxic, as many people believe it will be, and if all of those things happen, I think the Nets will be like the 2018-2019 Boston Celtics, where there will be many signs of them not being as good, but people will constantly make excuses for them, and then when the playoffs come around, they will lose in the second round to the Raptors or something. But if I have to make my own prediction, I believe the Nets will be the second best team in the East, because I think KD will return as a top 10 player, and I think their chemistry will not be super toxic and will just be okay. I see them getting the second seed and being slightly worse than the Bucks, but they are definitely title contenders. Anyways guys, that's it for the video. Let me know how good you think the Nets can be next season. Like this video if you like the video. Subscribe to my channel to help me reach 500 subscribers before the end of 2020. Or subscribe if you want to see more weekly NBA content. Comment on this video to start a conversation with me, because I respond to all comments. And check these 2 videos up above if you like this one. And I'm out.